Hi, TV. I'm Alikia, your host as usual. Today I am with Joel Hebner,
Yes.
who is an actor, producer, and stunt coordinator. And we're going to talk a little bit about the projects he's worked on and what he is currently working on. So I wanted to ask you first how you got your start as an actor here in LA.
Great question. It feels like forever ago, but my first audition ever was actually for a show that I don't think is on the air anymore, but it was the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which was a pretty big deal back when I was young, and I grew up with them. So they flew me out. We had auditions at Saban it was in the Valley at the time. I didn't know where anything was because I didn't live out here. But yeah, I spent a couple weeks out here auditioning for Power Rangers, and I did not get the role, but it did sort of settle me into Los Angeles, and that was 25 years ago. So I always say that if you're in LA still, you're doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
So far so good.
Yeah. What color Power Ranger?
You know that I don't know. I think it was either gonna be my favorite color is green, so which again lovely shade.
Thank you.
I would have hoped it would be the Green Ranger, but no, I probably maybe blue or red. I wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have held it against them. I would have been happy with whatever color.
Okay. Do you remember your first part that you were like, wow, I made it as an actor?
Yes. I remember my very first lead role. It was for a sci-fi TV production company called The Asylum, which is still doing movies. They're the ones who made Sharknado. But I played Frankenstein. And it was, again, I was this young kid coming in, and I'm playing the character prior to his transformation into a monster and then what he becomes. And I remember being like, wow, this is it. I've made it. And then the reality of, the indie project and everything else, 16-hour days, 20-hour days, tons of makeup, everything else. It's a blessing to be able to do what we do. And I try to always keep that in mind when I get the opportunity to be on set.
So being a stunt coordinator, that doesn't come about one day to another. How did you get into all the physicality of doing that?
I consider myself, even now, I consider myself an action actor. So I'm very comfortable doing a lot of stunts. I'm very comfortable. I was a martial artist and a football player. So I've always been very comfortable being physical. So bringing that to my characters, it helps me become more well-rounded with them. Through that, you end up, being asked, and because I was doing creeforming and working at doing suits, they always want the werewolf to jump on the moving car. So naturally, that's sort of a natural progression where you're like, all right, well, he's Frankenstein. Now can Frankenstein jump into a tree or whatever? And that's how I sort of started. And then I got very, very lucky. A couple years later, I met an amazing stunt coordinator by the name of Wally Crowder, who brought me in and started he took me under his wing and gave me some amazing opportunities. And from there, I think there were a couple fairly big actors that I used to double. And then after about a dozen projects, you start to know that you know more than some other people. And so it's sort of like a natural progression where one day you're like, okay, I don't think I need to get hit by cars anymore. Now I can tell other people how to get hit by cars. Mm-hmm. And, it feels a lot better. less recovery time for doing stunt coordinating.
Yeah, because I think we've had some before here interviewed, and they say that although, you are, trying to keep safe, you still get scruffed up a bit, right?
The movie Fall Guy, they really hit it well. We do everything. Stunts is primarily about being safe. That is, I tell people that all the time. I've been a stunt driver for years. And I think the thing that people, they all think it's like drifting and fast and furious. No, it's driving safely. It's being able to stop and hit your mark. It's driving, so it's not as glamorous as people think. But yeah, the stunts still hurt. The ground, even with shoulder pads and a gaiter on, the ground still hurts when you hit it. So, and that's one thing the Fall Guy movie really talked about. They're like, these stunts still hurt, because they do. You just develop a toughness to it. And then, if it hurts too bad, you try not to do that again.
feel like I've heard that some people have only one take to get certain things. They will only allow themselves to do it once.
Yes, I mean some of the more dangerous ones, I totally get that. Like I have a thing against heights, so I don't do heights. So if that was the case, if they were like, "Oh, we need you to do a height," I'd be like, "All right, we get one, so you better get this right." I know for me, one of my most, we'll say, dangerous or painful was I did a car hit where I doubled another big actor, and we had to do that 7 times. And so 7 times you're sitting there and you get hit by the car, and then they're like, "Okay, we got this bit. Now get up on the hood of the car." And you just have to roll off, and it sounds easy because you're like, it's just rolling off.
Yeah.
But again, the ground hurts, and every time you have to, you do it cautiously, but you still end up, on a good day you'll have some road rash or something like that, but nothing broken. That's a great day if nothing's broken.
On a good day.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any sort of, because I know you've been doing this for now 20 years?
25 years in Los Angeles, yeah.
25 years?
Wow, it feels like yesterday, but 25 years, yeah.
Yeah. Is there a particular project that really stands out to you that you had a blast doing?
So I was pre-law before I dropped everything and moved to Los Angeles. My father, who passed away last year, he was not thrilled with that. But then, a couple years ago, I was the face of a franchise, Call of Duty, which is a fairly well-known video game. I was the face of this, so my picture was up in Times Square. It was billboards all over the world. And I think that was the job where I knew it was cool, right? I was like, "Oh, it's Call of Duty, like this is a big deal." But what really got me is when my dad finally called and was like, "Oh, I guess you're a pretty big deal." He was like, "I guess it's a pretty big deal." And that was a big one for me. I think that resonated the most for me.
Over the job itself.
Yeah,
right?
over the job itself, I say I fight ninjas and drive cars fast for a living. Most of my friends can't say that. So I always have been very blessed that I get to do some incredible stuff. But it was that moment of recognition, I think, coming from my father who, again, my dad didn't know any movies. He didn't know, like, if you were like, Al Pacino, he'd be like, "I think I might know that guy." And you're like, "This is crazy." So when that happened with my dad, I was like, all right, this is the job that legitimized me. And it's funny, like I was in Sundance a couple of years, actually it was later that year, I was in Sundance. And they were doing a promo for the movie what was his name? Eddie the Izzard, or it was Hugh Jackman and Taron Egerton. And they were there doing this promo. And I remember my executive producer, when he introduced me, he wouldn't say, "This is Joel from our movie." He'd be like, "This is the Call of Duty guy."
Oh, okay.
And so Hugh Jackman and Taron Egerton came over and took pictures with the Call of Duty guy. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
man, I was blown away because I'm a comic book dork. Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine, he's a great actor, but like, I was like, Wolverine is like here taking a picture with me. That's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So the Call of Duty one was great. I think the ones I look forward to the most are the ones that haven't happened yet. There's a lot of stuff that we're developing and that a couple of roles that I'm attached to now that I'm really excited about. But yeah, that's the beauty of this industry, is that every day is a totally new thing.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if there's one thing you're recognized for, but is there anything besides that?
Call of Duty is a big one. I was also in, there was a Kenny Chesney and Pink music video that came out a couple years ago. It was like one of their top music, it was like one of the top country music videos for like 2 years running. And that one I was in, and I got noticed a couple times from that. Call of Duty I actually don't get noticed from a lot because I had a very different look for that. So I had like a beard and a mohawk, and it was a very more aggressive military look. No, I don't. But I don't get called out for any particular roles right now.
Yeah. That's nice because a lot of actors kind of want their privacy too, right?
Yes, that was. I wasn't even on social media until the whole Call of Duty thing.
Yeah.
And people were like, "How are you not on Insta? How are you not doing this? How are you not on TikTok?" Wasn't a thing then, but like, yeah, I'm a pretty private guy
Mhm.
in general. I think that as an actor, that makes us better actors, the less you know about someone.
Mhm.
So like I look at, I emulate actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or Bryan Cranston is one that I've always loved. I think they don't do a lot of social media stuff. They let their work sort of talk for them,
Mhm.
and I love that.
Yeah, I do recognize you because we had a guest on here, Carolina the Eighty,
She's
who,
amazing.
yeah, you were in her music video
I
too, right?
was. I was very, very lucky. I mean, look, she did all the hard work. I just had to sit there and if you haven't seen Besame, do yourself a favor. Besame is a phenomenal music video, and Carolina is excellent in it. She's super talented, beautiful voice, beautiful girl. Very lucky to be in it. Yeah, but she did all the hard work. I just sat there and they just framed me right.
Yeah, it's fun though too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing, I want to get this right. So you mentioned you're also an actor that portrays creatures, right?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is and sort of what kind you have?
Yes. So essentially, a lot of times when you're gonna see creatures in movies nowadays, they do a lot with CG, but in the past there used to actually be a human being inside of that suit, and and I think nowadays even the good ones still do, and it's a amalgamation of both digital and practical, which I think really looks good. But yeah, so I played monsters because I'm a tall guy and I'm strong enough. A lot of these suits can weigh up to 70, 80 pounds, so you have to be able to move naturally while wearing them. I'm actually the first American commercial performer to do a suit job in China. So like I got flown out to Beijing, what was it, 4 years ago? Spent 10 days working out there. I was Guan Yu, which is a Chinese general who I was a 10-foot tall Guan Yu who wearing as a dragon man. So I had a giant mane, flowing hair. I was doing kung fu in about a foot and a half stilts, which again I'm a tall guy in general, so that was a big deal. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, an incredible job, but very challenging. That was a very challenging. Chinese production companies are legit, like legit.
So how do you sort of take care of yourself? Because I know sometimes they can get very, very hot, and sometimes they're very tight.
Yes, well, and that's actually one of the big things. That's a great question because yeah, a lot of people can't handle the suits are incredibly claustrophobic or can be. So most people can't handle even the process of getting them made because it involves full life. Basically, you're getting a cast of your entire body, your face, everything. You're breathing out of tiny straws that they stick up your nose, and then they're like plastering your entire head. You also have to be strong enough to move in this stuff. When I was doing the job in China, I would lose realistically 10 to 15 pounds of water weight every day. So I was drinking, I believe it's called Bacardi sweat, which it was like Chinese Gatorade,
Okay.
and it was really helpful. Yeah. A lot of water, but there's a balance
Because you can't go to the
yes,
restroom
that's
that
it.
often.
It took us 4 hours to put
Yeah.
on the suit.
Yeah.
So it took 2 hours to get it off. So yes, you have to, and that's something I actually learned from my mentor, Doug Jones, phenomenal guy. Thank you, Doug. He really taught me a lot about like, okay, you're gonna go in this,
Yeah.
like, know that you can't do much. So it comes down to like ice chips, little sips of water, really just being aware of what you're putting in your body.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's there's a mental game to the creature performing as well.
So there's like a special club. You're watching Star Wars. You're like, I know exactly what he's feeling right
Yep,
now.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true.
Okay. So is there one of those projects that you have a lot of credits to your name that you're particularly like proud of, maybe because of the subject matter, something important, and a message in there?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, I produced I worked with my producing partner, and I starred and produced a project called Collector, which did very well on the festival circuit. It was nice. It was an action project, action crime thriller. So, we didn't have the emotional connection. We didn't have, I do rescue a young lady from potential, very bad things. So there was that element of it, but it was a project because I was involved in it from the beginning, the writing of the script, everything. It felt really good to complete that. And I think to have the validation of other people, which I know is something so trivial and petty, but I think validation in our industry, with as much rejection as we get, it can carry you through gaps of work. You know, knowing that you're like, oh, people like this.
Yeah.
You know, that way it was Collector was a great one. We actually ended up winning best action sequence, best director, and best actor by LA. I think it was LA Film, and yeah, it was just a great experience. That one felt really good because, like I said, I was a part of it. It was like a baby that I got to nurture from start to finish. And so many times we as actors don't, if you're not producing your projects, our final performance is up to the director or up to the producers, you know. So
The editor at the
yeah,
end.
the editor,
Yeah.
absolutely. So a lot of times that was actually one of the reasons I got into production. Was I remember I did a couple films early on in my career, and I remember as I watched the film, I was like, I know we had a better scene than that. I know we had a better take, you know, and that was something that I was really like, all right. And when I became a producer, I wanted to have more control over my projects because, you know, I make things that I like and things that I would like to watch, and, you know, hopefully other people like it. So it's nice to have that sort of control.
Speaking of, you have a web series coming up.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, Dark Mirage is it's a really interesting. Myself and my producing partner have never delved into this short form sort of media before, but we're really excited on being able to play in this world, and it's a very new sandbox, so we have to learn all the ins and outs of it. But it's a crime noir thriller about a detective in a cybernetic post-modern world who's basically just trying to solve a murder before the city gets burned down around him. And we're looking at building this. We want to do it really nice and slowly and actually doing it in a short form process. So, you know, 30-second to 1 minute clips, but building it through social media, which, you know, I've seen some other projects. Like I said, I think nowadays with the industry being what it is, producing your own content and being proactive is incredibly important now. So we're gonna try it out, see how that works. The script is really interesting. The character is really interesting. I get to play some fun emotions that I don't normally get to play, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Oh, that's amazing. So we'll look out for that. Still in development.
Yes.
Lastly, I want to ask you if you have any advice for anyone that wants to be an actor or maybe, you know, a stunt coordinator.
Yes. So I got asked this when I was stunt coordinating. I went into USC and I spoke with their film department as well. And I'm going to say the same thing that I said to them. Don't be a dick. That's it. It sounds so funny, but like, it's so true. The people that we work with, you never know where that relationship is going to go or where they're going to go. So you being a jerk to a PA one day, that guy is going to be the guy who's hiring you the next day. And that is legitimately the industry we work in. So nowadays, especially, be kind, be nice to people. We're all trying to do this together. This is a team effort. And, you know, it's, if not, you learn the hard way. And you know, and that's not the worst thing, but yeah, just be good to everybody. I think that's one thing that I've learned. I've actually gotten so much on set from just that. You know, remembering people's names, just being present with people. I think that's huge on our industry.
It's really important, and that's great. Thank you for being here, Joel.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
Lastly, I want to ask you if we could find you on your social medias.
Yes. So my Instagram is Joel_Ezra_Hebner. That's it. That's all I got.
And you got the IMDb, so.
IMDb is IMDb is my go-to. So enjoy that. You can check out Collector, which is on our Mass Upset YouTube page, award-winning short film. And then stay tuned for Black Mirage.
Yeah, stay tuned. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone that's been watching.
Thank you very much, y'all.
Stay tuned. Bye.